Welcome to our basement. I don't show this area too much because the furnace is loud. It's not very attractive, and depending on where I stand, the lighting makes it look like I'm in like a horror movie or something. But this week we're talking all about sentimental items and storage spaces. So I want to share some of my top tips for dealing with sentimental items and some ideas for storage areas too. Today we're going to talk about sentimental items and storage spaces, and it's part of our Clutter-Free January series, which means I'm joined by over 20 other YouTubers who are going to talk about the exact same things. So I'll put a list to the playlist down below, but I hope between all of us you're going to get some great ideas, and I really hope that you've been enjoying this series during the month of January. I'll put links to all of the playlists down below because there's so many great ideas and great motivation and inspiration in all of them. Hopefully we can do something again like this in the future. So actually, if you would leave a comment, let us know, did you like this series? Do you want us to do something like this again? That's always really helpful to know. So I want to share my top 2 tips when it comes to sentimental items, and then my mindset around storage items as well. So when it comes to sentimental stuff, I have 2 tactics that I use. One is use it or lose it, and the other is putting some kind of boundary around how much you're going to keep, and a memory bin can be a great way to do that. So I'll show you my memory bin. But let's first talk about this idea of use it or lose it. And so when it comes to sentimental items, what I've realized for myself is that if I have something that's been passed on to me, I don't feel like it's honoring the memory of the person if I just keep it in storage. And so I've talked about this before, but this was my grandma's red tablecloth, and my mom gave it to me then. And I remember this tablecloth being on the table at my grandma's house when we would have Christmas there. And so when my mom gave it to me, it's very special to me. And so for the first couple years, I never used it because I didn't want anything to happen to it, right? And so finally I was like, you know what, that's silly. I want my kids to attach memories to this. I want, when I see it on the table, I want to be reminded of the Christmases at her house. So I am gonna use it. And do you know what happened that first year that I used it? Adeline, who is our crafty child, was super gluing something on our table, and she got super glue on it, and I could not get super glue out of it. If you know a way to get super glue out, let me know. And at first it really disappointed me, and then I realized that our daughter Adeline is actually named after my grandma Adeline, whose tablecloth it was, and it was really just her way of adding a memory to it, because now when it's been a few years, when I see the spot of super glue on it, I'm like, oh yep, that was the Christmas that Adeline was doing a craft project at the table. And she's always doing craft projects, so it's actually like a fun memory now, right? Because I'm guessing once she's old or out of the house, she might not be doing craft projects all the time anymore. I don't know, maybe she will, but I've decided that it's a new memory that's added to it instead of thinking, oh my goodness, she ruined it, right? And so yes, can things happen to this stuff when we use it? Yes, but I just like this idea of use it or lose it. Either use it, enjoy it, see it, or pass it on so that's somebody else. But keeping it in storage in the basement wasn't honoring my grandma's memory. And similarly, these glasses we got to buy from the estate, from the couple that owned our home before us. And so I thought it was just so cool to be able to have something that they had in the kitchen and, you know, bring it back home and put it back in the kitchen where they would have had it. So there was a set of 4 glasses, and I was tempted to just like display them on the open shelves or, you know, keep them in the cupboard so nothing happened to them. They're glass. But I was like, that is so silly. And I love that when we serve with them now, like I'll tell the story. I'll be like, oh, that was the gal who lived here before us. They were her glasses. And then we talk about the couple who lived here. They left a great legacy. And so I was tempted not to use them though, right? So they didn't break and nothing happened to them. And even just a couple weeks ago, one of them was on the counter, and I got up during the night to get a drink of water, and I didn't turn all the lights on, and I knocked it off the counter, and one of them broke. So now we only have 3 of them. And I was really bummed at the time, right? But I was like, no, I would still rather use them and over the years every single one get broken than just keep it as something I'm like archiving in our house that no one will ever see. And if no one ever sees it, it won't ever cause us to tell the story of it, right? And so I'm like, no, even though yes, I run that risk of it getting broken, I am still gonna use it. Here's another kind of fun one. This was a pot holder that we got for our wedding. So almost 13 years ago, 12 years ago. And the gal who made it, so she handmade it, and she passed away a few years later. And so again, the temptation was to just store it or keep it nice, right? To remember her by. But again, if it's in a container in storage, I don't actually ever remember her, except when I go to open that tote and I open it, I'm like, and I feel guilty, right? Because it's just been sitting in storage and I totally forgot about it. So I was like, no, I'm gonna use the pot holder because that's what she made it for. This wasn't like fancy material, right? She made this pot holder to be used, not to be hung on the wall, not to be stored forever. She made it to be used. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna use it. And it looks disgusting now. I mean, we've been using it for a long time. But when I see it, I think of her and I remember her. And so to me, that's honoring that person, right? Seeing it, using it, thinking of them, and not just keeping it tucked away in storage. Okay, one last thing, and then we'll move on to the memory bins. But I showed you my grandma's milk glass. She gave me a full set. And a lot of you said, like, well, just pull out some of the pieces you like and use them. And so that's what I've been doing. Like, isn't this so cute? And when I'm not using it, it's sitting on our open shelves. It makes me think of, this is my other grandma. It makes me think of her. And I love that we don't have to keep the whole set of something. We can pick out a few pieces that we like and we can use them. And I know a lot of times then the concern is, like if you have a china set or other dishes set, you don't want to break up the set, right? You'll see people that'll make cool arrangements on the wall with like china or plates or cups, and maybe you just want to display a couple pieces of it, right? And then donate the rest. But the fear is always that we're gonna break up a set. Almost everything in my kitchen was thrifted. It was from secondhand stores, garage sales. My mom would get it places. And for me, I don't look to go buy a complete set of something. I like mixing and matching things and getting a piece here and another piece there. And so when I go to thrift stores, I don't look for a full set. I don't want to buy a full set. I like to get pieces like, oh, I need some more cups. I'll show you too the cups we're using for the kids now. And none of it matches, right? But I love that. And so for many of us who buy stuff secondhand, we're not necessarily going there to find a complete set. So I don't think you have to worry about breaking up sets of stuff when you go to donate it, because for those of us who buy stuff secondhand, we're not looking for a complete set. We like mixing and matching and having it look kind of eclectic. So don't worry so much about breaking up a set, because I still think people are gonna enjoy getting it and using it, because that's the purpose behind it, is for somebody to make use of these items. That is the use it or lose it principle. Either use it, display it, or pass it on out of your home. And then the other thing that can be really helpful is a memory bin. So we've talked about these before, but what it does is it just puts a container around how much stuff we're gonna keep. Because if we keep too much, we never revisit again. But when we have a memory bin, we're much more likely to go through it. So I'll show you mine. This is my memory bin. It's not super big, but what you'll find in here is just random photos and, oh, Tom and Gagey, my diploma from college. I don't know. I always like to keep our old Christmas cards. Oh, look at that. Isn't that cute? In a perfect world, you know, I would get this all in albums or scrapbooked or, you know, whatever. But let's just face it, like that doesn't always happen. So by having a memory bin, we can just throw this in. Greeting cards, notes that you get. This was a note that was in a card that we got with a Bible verse on it that I wanted to keep. More Christmas photos from the past, some pictures from our wedding. And so it's really nice just to be able to toss stuff in here, because otherwise this is the kind of random stuff that floats around without a home. But it also creates a boundary or a limit to how much I keep, because if I keep too much, I will never ever go through it again. But when it's a more manageable amount like this, I go through this fairly frequently. A lot of times when I go to put stuff in, I'll take a minute and I'll look through it. And so I actually enjoy the stuff in it and I look at it. So by putting this boundary around it, it does cause us to keep less, right? We have to be more selective, but it causes us to curate a really special collection of stuff that we're much more likely to visit. I think this is one of those things that until you try it, you might not actually realize how great it is and how well it works. And so I would encourage you to find some kind of bin. I like for mine not to be too big, but like Cass from Clutterbug, she uses like a full-size Rubbermaid container. So you get to pick, but I think if you'll try this, I think it really works well and I think you'll like it. So I would encourage you to check out a memory bin. All right, so those are my top 2 tactics when it comes to sentimental items. So let's talk about storage spaces. There's really one question I ask myself, and it's how much inventory do I want to manage? So I've talked about this before, but I look at everything in our home as inventory that I have to manage. I have to keep track of it. I have to organize it. I have to heat it and cool it and make sure it doesn't get wet and that pests don't get into it. And I mean, we don't think about it always in those terms, but it is inventory that I have to manage. In the past, you know, I would just, if we had a basement or a garage, I would fill it up, right? It's storage space. You put stuff in there till it's full, maybe till it's overflow, and that's what it's meant for. But I have a new filter now when it comes to stuff that we store, and it's how much inventory do I want to manage? Do I want to continue to maintain this stuff? And I've realized that we don't actually have a lot of time for extra stuff. It depends what kind of season you're in right now, but we don't actually have a lot of time to do lots of hobby things or sporting things or things that I might have enjoyed in the past. And for some of us, the limitation is time. For some of us, it's energy. For some of us, it's having to care for people in our lives that have extra needs, which I guess, again, goes back to time. But most of us have this ideal world where we have extra time for hobbies and the stuff that we're storing. But if we actually take a look at our reality in our real current world, we don't actually have that much time. And especially then if I have limited time or energy, I don't want to dedicate it to managing stuff that I'm not using. And so I've really had to take a serious look at how much stuff I keep in storage and ask myself, do I want to continue to manage this much inventory? And the answer for me has been no. I would rather dedicate that time and energy to other things right now. And so that's my filter now when I'm looking at stuff in storage. Do I want to continue to maintain this? Am I actually using it enough to justify keeping it and maintaining it? And I mean, I've shown you our basement before. I mean, there's really not much down there because that shows you how much value I have for maintaining stuff. I don't. I really do not have a lot of value for it because I want to focus on other stuff. We each decide for ourselves how much we want to store, but I think most of us are storing too much and it's draining our time and energy. And it kind of makes us feel like losers a lot of times too, that we can't keep up on it. We look at a space and it's not organized. Why isn't my basement or my attic or my garage organized? It's too much. It's simply too much for us to manage. We do have to pare it down. It's not always easy, but I think if we're just real with ourselves and just keep asking ourselves, but do I want to use my time and energy to maintain it? Do I want to use my time on this? I think for most of us, we're going to say, nope, I have better things to do with my time. Those are my top tips when it comes to dealing with sentimental items and storage spaces. Again, is it easy? No, but I think you'll find as you just keep chipping away at it and working through it, it does get easier. The space you free up it's both mental space you free up and physical space. It feels really good. So I encourage you to keep going even though it's not always easy. But like I said, I'm gonna put all those links to our Clutter-Free January series down below. And if you haven't had the chance to sign up for the course that I did with Dana and Cass from Clutterbug, it closes soon. It closes right here at the end of January. So just a few days left to sign up. We would love to see you in there. We do talk a lot about sentimental items and storage spaces too. So if you want a little more support in those areas, I will put links to that down below as well. But I love you. I hope you have a really good day and I look forward to seeing you again soon.